I wrote my number one in all caps, and it's people with an exclamation point, in person with an exclamation point. I didn't know how much I needed people and felt inspired. I felt like I was, in terms of being back together with the large group of CD Baby people, sort of just reconnected with my sense of purpose professionally.
Yeah.
Just in terms of being at an exciting sort of party, I felt like reconnected with a sense of fun as an individual. And then artistically, I'm just like, I've got a ton of inspiration. So I want to just cry again and thank first our team for being so cool and talented and giving. And more than anything, I want to thank the attendees who showed up. And we have an amazing community of listeners and readers and people who use CD Baby, and even people who don't use CD Baby but decided they should be there. So thank you for doing that.
Dang it, Chris. Now I'm not going to be able to say what I want to say without just like completely losing it. Yeah. So I started having very heartfelt conversations with a lot of people. So I started like taking their names down and actually ended up hanging out with a crew most of the weekend. I spent a lot of time with the Canadian contingent plus one. I'll say plus one.
Plus Nico.
Plus Nico. So that was Mike and Kyle from Vancouver, BC, Blair from, oh man,
from like Manitoba.
Manitoba, yes, yeah. Manitoba. Nico was from New York, and Melody Ryan from Peterborough, Canada. We all ended up being a conference crew, and I just had the best time ever with them. Such great people. So it's one of those reminders to me about how, you know, we don't see it. We're, you know, I'm in this room that I'm in pretty much all my life these days. And in Camas, Washington, which is outside of Portland, Oregon, like it just in a house in Camas, Washington, which isn't a musical hotbed. Yeah, I'm in the Portland area, but wondering if anyone's listening, if anyone cares, and just knowing that getting to meet people and knowing that we're intersecting with their lives and this matters to them, that's what really keeps us going. Because there's been so many times where it's like, this is hard to keep a podcast going, to keep all this content we create going and feeling inspired to create it. But meeting all these people and talking to you in person is what really inspires me. Like I said, my heart is full. My cup is full.
Well, that makes me think I should move a different point up to just follow on what you said. It reminded me of this band Making Movies did the closing keynote, and their talk was a lot about community and kind of music's ability to travel distances and connect people. And when I introduced them, I was remembering that I'd met many of the people that were about to be on stage in completely different places and in different ways. And I was like, it's kind of a small world. And it's odd that I know all these people through these mutual friends from completely disparate places. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a nice little like microcosm of the talk they're about to give, which is a microcosm of what was happening all around at the conference. So I love that community slowly accrues. It's not something you force and it all just forms in a day or whatever, but like year after year, you meet a few more people, you stay open, you build relationships, you meet a few more people, and suddenly everything's just more connected. And if music's involved, it's more peaceful.
Yep. Yeah. Especially, I felt that really in a big way this year because we've been so disconnected for the last couple of years. Yeah. I didn't actually do my number one yet, but it ties into what you just said. I really liked how the whole weekend had the bookend theme of the value of music being so much more than money, success metrics. And that was Enrique Chi's brother. He almost said word for word what I had said in the opening keynote. And I know he didn't hear the opening keynote. So I think it was just something that was on a lot of people's minds and hearts, that the value of music is so much bigger. And their session was really about people just feeling empowered to be who they are, even if it's not, if their culture is different than maybe the dominant culture of where they live. And so that session just was amazing. And I thought that it was a perfect bookend to wrap up the whole weekend. So that was my number one. I'm gonna hit number two because I already kind of said it and it tied into your number one, like meeting all the people that listen to the podcast. That is a highlight. I'm a big podcast fan as well. So, there's podcasts I listen to where it's weird because it's like I'm hiking through the woods and that host is with me, or I'm at the gym and that host is with me. I'm in the car and it feels like I know them and have a relationship with them. So the fact that we get to meet all of you in person is just a huge highlight because, like I said, if sometimes it feels like, is anyone out there listening? And so many people were just so excited and like, please, yes, we're listening. I mean, please don't stop. We're listening. Keep going. Not that we are planning on stopping, but the idea just like when you see firsthand the impact you have, which I think it relates to the idea of what we were talking about with the value of music, that the impact that you're having in someone's life oftentimes is unseen. And so it's nice to get that feedback, not in an egotistical way, but just in the way like, yeah, I'm doing work that matters.
Yeah,
So
I met so many people who came up and would tell me the activity they most often do when my voice is in their ear. And they'd be like, "I have shingled so many roofs with your voice in my ear," or "I have been on the subway so many times." And no one said anything super embarrassing yet, so I guess we're not a big toilet listening,
I'm sure we are. They just didn't tell us.
One of my highlights, which I was pretty sure going into the conference would be a highlight, was Tom Jackson's live band makeover. Holy crap. Every time he takes a band that is good and they perform well, and you think, all right, well, what's he gonna do? And every time, by the end, standing ovation just transformed the performance into something really special and memorable. And memorable is his whole thing. He wants to create memorable
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah. This was the best one yet, hands down. And one of the things that we wanted to do this year, I was determined to do, is in years past, we've typically used the hotel production company. I don't need to get in all the details why. Basically, they make you, but that's the details. But this year, I was determined to not do that. And so I got my friend's production company out. He was actually the sound guy that was on the road with us this past summer or just last month. And it was so much better to have a production company there that was used to doing big concerts and really understood doing production for music and musicians. Like the live band makeover had amazing energy because of the lights and sound. It sounded so good.
Yeah.
And it was like on the verge of the dam breaking and everyone getting up and just rushing the stage and having a giant like party. It was so close. If Tom didn't keep stopping the song to work on the parts, it was like people were jumping out of their seat. It was unlike anything I've seen at our conference before. But
And
even like
again, it wasn't because this band played a genre of music that everyone was like fanatical about. It's because they did it super well, and they also were very open to being corrected on stage and like redirected, and you see them like just being good sports, and then they pull
yeah.
it. You're like rooting for them.
Plus, it was a good song, and I'm a sucker for a rock song where the melody goes up in the chorus and there's this giant harmonies, and they nailed it. I mean, they were really good.
Yeah.
But then also, I'll tag this onto that one, talking about the production and all for the open mic. We had them on that same stage, and the open mic felt huge and exciting. And in years past, we've had open mics where it felt like most people were there just standing in the back talking, waiting for their name to potentially get picked, hoping they get on stage. This felt like a big show on a big stage, and everyone was just tracking and bought in, and it was so good. So good.
Just
My
a
next
very supportive
Go ahead.
audience. Yeah.
Yes. My next one was a late night jam session. So I was with that Canadian contingent plus one, being Nico the New Yorker. And they're like, "Hey, let's go jam." I'm like, "Wah, wah. I don't like jam sessions." But we met in the lobby, and this was like at 11 o'clock at night. And it was going to be too loud for the lobby because Kyle plays trumpet, and that's not going to work in the lobby of the hotel. So the security guard let us go up on the fourth floor out on the balcony that was, above the street. That's like the outside section of the conference area where people can smoke. And we just jammed for a bit and played a bunch of music and had fun. And it was just a good community experience. It was definitely me stepping outside my comfort zone because that is not my comfort zone. And, it was just good, an amazing time. That's some of those things that only happen at our conference. That does not happen at most conferences I go to. There are some like Folk Alliance that would happen.
Right.
But it was just a moment that I needed, and it was fun. And I felt like after that, I'm like, it was a good bonding moment between us.
Well, speaking of groups of people getting together and doing fun things, one highlight was the pool party once it's all over, which then led into dinner and karaoke. It was just like, holy crap, we pulled it off. It's a success. Everything is shipped back home. Let's party. Let's unwind. And again, that was like one of those things that sort of crystallizes what a cool team we have. So I put on my little notes like team morale should be a key performance indicator of companies and bands and groups. And like, if you want to be effective, it can't all just be work, 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 work. So I just said, like Kevin's band, skip practice once in a while and go play disc golf, or, take a night. Don't book every night of your tour. Take a night off to go, I don't know, do something fun. I saw Top Gun Maverick last night. They had to take a break to go play football on the beach, didn't they? Before they truly gelled as a team.
I mean, you had to have a reason to get video of them with their shirts off. So
yeah, well, that's a good reason.
Yeah, the pool party. Full disclosure, I just did this whole event just to get to the pool party.
There are other ways to do pool parties without.
A little known fact about me. I don't know why over the last handful of years, I've just decided all I want in life is to be by a great pool in the sun and sipping on a beverage with people I like, having a good time. It's just, to me, that feels like all is right in the world.
Have you started listening to Jimmy Buffett yet?
No. So anyway, Christina, over the months of planning, she'd be like, please stop talking about the pool party. Please stop talking. Then she was worried I was going to invite everyone from stage to come to the pool party. But it was amazing. And it was a real party. There was a giant stack of pizzas. We had a huge unicorn floaty, a huge
flamingo
floaty, and beach balls. And everyone was in the pool floating around. And then we ended up, playing a game with the beach ball. And it was just this moment for us as CD Baby and some of our friends that we had collected along the way over the weekend, like our Canadian contingent was there. A few other people that were there that we, like I said, you start collecting friends along the weekend. But it was so much needed. If you don't know, and you may have guessed because I keep talking about how I'm in this room, we haven't been in the office since the beginning of the pandemic. So we haven't seen a lot of our coworkers. And so there hasn't been a lot of social interaction. So being all there together, just having fun, reinvigorating the fire for why we work at CD Baby and why we love working with each other was huge.
Yeah.
Dang it. Now I'm crying again.
And then we took the pool party to karaoke, which is my favorite thing to do, and had more fun.
Yes. And what I always tell people is, one, out of all the distributors out there, CD Baby knows how to party better than any of the other ones. No question there. Number two, if CD Baby goes to do karaoke, you should go because it's going to be an experience. And it absolutely was. Loved it. It was the perfect way. The pool party, the karaoke. Again, at the karaoke, there was more of our friends that we had collected over the weekend that were there to celebrate with us. And it was a great way to end it out.
Yeah. Well, my last highlight actually happened yesterday, which was Tuesday. So, the conference has been over for a few days. And I got a DM, like a voice DM on Instagram from an artist who said, the conference was so great. I felt like it had so much impactful educational stuff. I felt like it was being delivered by people who either were artists and completely get what it's like to be an artist, or they at least care so much about artists that they were like meeting us on our level. She was, going on and on. And at some point she's like, I'm sorry if this is like, strange that I'm telling you. I'm like, no, please go, keep going. So anyways, she sent me 4 minutes or so of audio saying all the stuff. And then she said, I have dedicated my how'd she frame it? Basically, it was like, I've been doing a lot of producing and releasing and performing. And then this year I decided I needed to take a break and like dial in my marketing. So as part of that, I've been home watching a ton of online conferences, and I attended this one online. So she wasn't even there in person. She was getting all of this virtually, and said yours by far was the best conference I've attended. And then I was blown away because I was like, this is the first person I've heard from who attended virtually, and they still had a very special, beneficial experience. They don't have all these other maybe community bells and whistles we're talking about, but they just got some value from that. Just put such a good point on it that we pulled it off in that way too, because I think it feels such like an in real life event that I had no conception of what people at home were experiencing. So anyways, that's the last highlight for me.
Yeah, our friend Malia was watching from home and was sending screenshots, and I was asking her, how's it playing from the computer? Is it translating? What's the vibe? And it sounded like that experience was translating as best as it could without actually being there in person, which is exciting. Actually, I'll do my last point. Then I realized I've got something here related to people and us going out. My last point or highlight was the Ross Golden session. What I loved about that is we were in the green room before, and I think Ross already had in his mind like this idea of how we all have these song ideas we're recording on our phones, like voice memos, and we have a million of them. And I think what he had in his mind is he was trying to be encouraging, like, hey, I'm struggling through a process just like all of you, which he did say from the stage, but backstage in the green room beforehand, he's like, hey, would this work to play? And he's like, I got this voice memo. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's like 14 minutes long, but here's the scenario. They were in a studio and Adele was recording in the next room, and they're like, hey, they're professional songwriters. So they're trying to write songs with another artist in mind that might want to record it. And so they were trying to record, like mess with something that they thought might be an Adele ballad. And so you start hearing this process, and he starts skipping through and it's not going anywhere. They're frustrated. They change keys. And then at one point, this is like maybe 10 or 11 minutes in, they just stop, and he goes, ugh. One of the guys, because there's two of them. One was playing piano, one was singing and sort of riffing on some lyrics. And then you hear the piano player just trying to find some bass notes instead and focus on that. And then he just comes up with this bass line, and then instantly magic happens. The lyric approach and the melody approach that Ross was going for completely changes. And almost instantaneously, they had the framework for, is it called My House?
Welcome to my house.
Yeah, I think the title, he said like come to my house, but I think the actual title for Flo Rida was My House. But he was telling the story about how his wife was dealing with some chronic pain, can't go out. And so I was just in his head of like this thing that was going on in his life and how they can't go out. And so people have to come to their house. And so all of a sudden it just connected. And the thing that I thought was so amazing when he's like, should I do that at the beginning? I'm like, yes, and yes, and yes, please do that, because all of us have that. I've got a million of those ideas. And to hear somebody who's at the top of the top, that their process is exactly the same as ours, is so encouraging that I felt like that session, that really set the right tone for that session, because it could have been different. And I really appreciated that moment when we get a glimpse. That's why people ask, some people will say, well, they're not DIY artists. I know, but they're artists. They're creative people, and they're at the top of their craft. We're all trying to get better at our craft. That's why having Questlove and DMC made sense. We're all artists making art and trying to find our way, and hearing that their processes are exactly like ours just really lights a fire under me.
And that it's work. They didn't just wake up inspired and write the thing. They had to get through the drudgery of 10 minutes or what, sometimes it's hours of jamming, playing around, trying different things. And then suddenly, oh, there's the inspiration. But it only arrives after you push yourself through all that other crap.
Yes.